Hey guys, this is Bart coming to you from TST Industries in Florida with another episode of TST Garage. As you can see behind me, I have a brand new 24 Plus ZX-6R in the shop with me, and we've already mounted a bunch of crash protection components on it. Now we are going to mount our new TST Industries frame slider kit on this bike. This will complete our total protection package, which is available as a bundle deal. You can pick these components up as a standalone unit or that total protection package. Choice is yours. TSTindustries.com is the source. Now, let's talk quickly about the design of these components. Here I have the right side kit broken down. Here I've built the left-hand side kit, so you see what this looks like, what it will look like on the bike. We do have Delrin pucks that are the member that will absorb the first point of impact and the energy that will be transferred to the bike. It is a very resilient material that will enable you to slide across hard surfaces, but at the same time, it does have a little bit of give and a little bit of springiness, so it will absorb some of that energy in a crash. Behind it, there is a CNC Machine 6061 aluminum spacer that mounts to a frame mount. The reason why we chose to execute this design in this fashion is because we wanted to have a no-cut type of a setup on this bike. We needed to make it robust enough to take a good hit and continue on sliding down without disintegrating, but also get around all of the fairings so that you guys don't have to cut your fairings up. Now, typically for race setting, we do prefer to cut the fairings, but on this particular bike, some of the fairing components are very slender, and in line with the mounting surfaces, we would have to just slice them in half, and then that fairing would get very floppy. And for street use, most guys don't want to do that. So we decided to throw our engineering know-how at this kit and really come out of the gate swinging. Let's do the best we can and figure out how to dodge the fairings and protect the bike really, really well. So the left side and the right side components vary slightly. They do have to be chosen appropriately. Good news is you can't mess this up. This only goes one way. We do have a PDF sheet on our website listing for this kit that if you download and print it out, it'll guide you through what I'm about to tell you. The way this is built, grab your frame mount and choose the appropriate spacer. The spacer geometry will follow the lines set by the frame mount. And then for the pucks look kind of very similar. So on the pucks, we do have inscriptions. Puck 1R means right, and L means it'll be used on the left. All of the hardware is properly selected to be strong steel. We have 10-9 class bolts here, 10-9 here, and stainless steel on the small ones. I'll show you how those work and where they go. A couple other things I want to mention is how we developed the mounting for the frame. As you can see internally here, we do have channels cut into larger blocks. Now this is for the purpose of cradling the actual frame member and then mounting into the frame and also the motor. That is the most robust area that you could mount a frame slider to, but it does leave the frame and the head a little vulnerable if you only have a single point of contact. Now, traditional sliders on the market are cylindrical and they just have one bolt going through, and on this particular bike, there are very few areas where you could pick up with that kind of a system enough surface area so that you don't transfer a lot of that force into the engine. We don't want to disturb the engine in a crash. We don't want to damage anything on the frame or the engine. So we decided that we are going to cradle the frame, and in the event of a crash, the crash energy is going to be distributed among many surfaces, minimizing the potential for real big damage. We do have the main motor mount bolt come out and get replaced with our bolt. Then there's a secondary screw that goes into the frame. That is in a location behind a cap here. I will demonstrate how to do that in just a moment. Just wanted to illustrate one more design aspect that is very important to point out, the geometry of our pucks is developed in a way that when the bike does go over in a crash, the surface or the set of surfaces that may contact the surface that you're falling onto is ramped in multiple directions. So if you hit the ground, hit pavement, and slide, there's very little potential for the leading edge of this element to catch something like a pothole, or should you slide off into the dirt, to catch in and flip the bike. That is a typical mode of disintegration in a crash that I've seen and I've caused using cylindrical frame sliders. This is why we've developed this kit to work better in that fashion and prevent the bike from a higher potential of possibly flipping over. So those are the design aspects. I'm gonna break this kit down and basically get it back to what it looks like when you receive it, and then we will start on the bike. I'm gonna do this next step on the table from the perspective of a person who just purchased this. It came to the door and they unboxed it and they laid it out. Now, we need to make sense of all these components and know where all of them go. So the easiest thing to do is first to look at the back of the pucks. One is L, one is R. The right one goes here, left one goes here. Now, we have this teardrop shape frame adapter versus a more rectangular one. This one goes on the right side with this setup, and this one conversely goes there. Now we have this spacer that is curved on top, and then we have a flat one. Curved goes with the right side and opposite side here. The motor mount bolts are the same. Each one gets distributed to left and right. Same here with the M6 screws. Now, the longer M8 screws go with the right side kit, and then the 4 shorter ones go here with the left side kit. Now we have separated kits. We will start on the right side of this bike. So this is the kit we're going to be going with in the first section of this video. Let's grab some tools and get started. All right, here we are on the bike. We are going to pick the least invasive way of installation, and that means we will not be removing fairings off the bike. You can, it actually is a preferred way to make this installation, but I typically lean towards the side of less removed, less work is better. So this is what I'm going to portray here. We are going to dismount some of the mounting areas from the bike so that we can flex the fairings and get enough access, but that'll be the extent of that. I'm going to grab a 5mm Allen, remove this fastener here. This comes off with a shoulder washer, and then there's also a little nylon soft plastic washer. Anywhere you have painted surfaces on a Kawasaki, those washers are present. Please retain those. We're going to remove this from the frame as well. And this screw only has the plastic washer, no shoulder. All right, now we have some mobility here. One additional area I'd like to make easy to move is this area here. We do have a push fastener in there. When you press the center in, that unlocks it, and then you can take it out. It's one of these guys. When the button sits flush with the head, it's locked. You push that in, and then you're able to extract it. And now we can split those two from each other. They do have an interlocking geometry. One goes over the other. I just used a simple flathead screwdriver to pry up on one of the tabs, and that releases the inner tab from within there. Now we have all this access here. Now we will have the ability to get into the frame and engine bolt right here. Before we do that, we'll need to extract this cap panel retainer. I do have a tool that ramps itself in under there. I use this on these guys just to make it simple and prevent myself from scratching up the frame. You could either pry or use a screwdriver against it, and all you'll be scratching is the actual tool. Now, I don't expect most people to have this tool, so get some thicker plastic, like from a thicker bottle, and a blade, and you can cut into it and cut yourself a shape that will fit under there. And you basically will just make a sheath for yourself to have in between the head of this cap and the frame, and then you could use a flathead screwdriver to pry against this, therefore not mess up the nice black finish on your frame. I'm going to continue with what I started here. You have to be patient with these caps because they do have a tendency to snap off if you get impatient, and that will leave a portion of the cap inside the threads, and we don't want that. All right, so when our frame mount is superimposed over this area, this smaller screw will go through this hole and engage with this threaded hole here that we've just exposed. All right, let's move on to removing the engine frame bolt from here. I'm going to use a 14mm open-ended or box wrench. The factory torque spec on this is 32 foot-pounds, so you will need to crack it loose, and then it'll start moving on you pretty easily. On the inboard side of this bolt, you have an adjustment mechanism that closes the gap in between the motor that's been mounted to the left side mount and the frame here. It does adjust. So on different bikes, it'll have slightly different tolerance. We built that into our design, so there should be no worry about that. Once this is out, I will grab the frame component, the frame mount, superimpose it over its mounting location. Now I am going to use the M6 screw here to fixture this in its location. It'll make it easier for us to work on the entire thing while this is self-captive. Now I'll grab the bolt from our kit, the main engine bolt. And this is where we will need to flex the fairing out pretty drastically, but that leaves the rest of the fairings unaffected, so no big deal. If you notice, I am working one side at a time. I did not loosen both sides and remove the bolts from both sides of the motor. That is deliberate. You do not want to take more than one motor mount off the entire motorcycle as you manipulate all these parts. If you have more than one off, there is a possibility of the motor drooping in the frame, and then that opens up a whole can of worms where you have to realign your motor. So let's stick to only doing one at a time. I'll take that same 14mm box wrench and get my main connection here bottomed out. Once I feel resistance, I'm going to move on to this top one, get this bottomed out. Now I'm going to grab a torque wrench and set it to 8 foot-pounds. This screw receives 8 foot-pounds, and then the main connection receives 32 foot-pounds. All right, now we'll grab this spacer, and it is curved across the top, but if you align it like this, you'll notice that this relief that's supposed to be over this screw is not aligned in the right place. So let's align that relief over that screw. Then we'll grab the puck that is designated puck 1R. We'll align it here Drop the long M8 screws through here, and then line this up using a 6mm Allen. I'm going to engage those screws. And then we will grab a torque wrench set to 16 foot-pounds. And we're going to torque these down to 16. Beautiful. Let's go ahead and replace the fasteners that we took off. With the exception of the middle fastener, we will still need the same flexural freedom on the left-hand side of the bike, so we're going to leave the bottom disconnected. This side is pretty much done. As you can see, the side profile shape of this puck has been machined to mimic the body lines of the Kawasaki really well. And as I already mentioned, it actually is a functional design where the ramp surfaces help prevent digging in upon sliding on the surfaces that you crash on. All right, let's spin this thing around and I'll show you the left side. On this side, I'm going to begin with this fastener and then this one down here. Both take 5mm Allen. I have my center still disconnected, so we're good there. Now I have flexural freedom here. I'm going to start by removing the frame cap. All right, now with that out of the way, I need to remove that motor bolt, which is a 14mm, but on this side, we need to do it with a socket. Now the bolt is out and we have this member that needs to go in there, but before we actually get that on there, we need to assemble it with the spacer. This side is slightly different than the other side, so let's figure out how to do this. We obviously want our frame slider to be in this area. So technically this can be accepted this way, except we won't fit with the fairings. So let's go with what will fit. This will be the orientation. These two filleted areas match in line. Let's get two of these M8 screws that came with this kit. There are 4. 2 of them are for the puck, 2 of them are for the mating of these components. Using a 6mm Allen, I'm going to seat these all the way to the bottom. Then I'm going to grab a torque wrench. I'll fit it with a 6mm Allen bit and get these to 16 foot-pounds. This is a little challenging in hand, probably easier on a vise, but still doable. Now, let's flex the fairing away, get this in place. Now this boss does need to go into the well where we took the bolt out of. That fits right in there, so let's get that in and concentric, and then we will line up this screw for our smaller M6 screw to go through. Once the hole for this screw is concentric with its receiving threads, use a 4mm Allen to get that started. Leave it loose. Grab the motor bolt that came with our kit and get that in there. And now we're going to need to start the threads by hand. Once the threads catch, I'm going to use this tool because it's easier to get in there. Get it close to bottom and then switch over to my torque wrench. All right, I have that pretty close to bottomed out. Just going to leave a little bit of adjustability to make sure that I don't cause any extra friction on this bolted connection. Now I'm going to get this all the way down, grab my torque wrench that's been set to 8 foot-pounds. All right, now I'm going to switch over to this torque wrench outfitted with the 14mm socket. It's been set to 32 foot-pounds, and we're going to tighten down the main motor connection here. All right, now let's grab the left puck 1L, superimpose that over our spacer, and we're going to use the shorter screws just like on the back side of this assembly. Set the torque wrench back to 16 foot-pounds. Outfit it with a 6mm Allen and tighten down. All right, now let's get the fairing fasteners back in. Lastly, we have to reconnect the center area of the 2 bottom fairings. First, we'll engage that clicking tab that I just re-engaged, and then I put the push fastener back in, and now this job's complete. All right, that took 15 to 20 minutes and produced these results. Now the bike is protected in this area. Add that to the bar ends, the fork slider, and the swing arm spools. And now, in the event of a crash, now we have all these different sliding surfaces and points of impact that will decrease the damage to your wallet should you go down. All right, if you like what you see here, check out tstindustries.com. We have these parts ready to go. They are available as a standalone kit or as part of the total protection pack, coupled with the components you see here. I want to thank you for watching. Maybe you guys feel like leaving me a comment. I like conversing with you. Do that. Hit like and subscribe. Ride safe. See you later.